Welcome to Seniors, the podcast where I share inspiring stories and valuable insights tailored to our vibrant senior community, of which I am a member. I'm your host. I'm Jim Mangione. I'm a realtor and a seniors real estate specialist. I work in the Dallas DFW area. And today I have a really dynamic guest who knows that life is just too short to spend it overwhelmed by clutter. Please join me in welcoming Meggie Mangione. And Meggie is an accredited professional organizer and the proud owner of Organized Life Design in Houston, Texas, a neighbor to where I live in the Dallas area, where she has dedicated over 10 years to this point to helping individuals reclaim their spaces and their peace of mind. Her mission? To remove the stress and tackle the mess together. Meggie is not just an expert in organizing, she's a relatable advocate for freedom and clutter. And today is her day, a special day. I've been there, done that, where she is releasing her brand new book, your first book, Meggie, if I'm correct.
That is correct.
Yeah, her first book, and it's called Give Clutter the Middle Finger. We'll use this because that might be too offensive to some people. So this will pretend it's my middle finger, and I don't mean any. But today is her release day, and I'm so excited for her and so excited for you that after listening to what Meggie has to say and what we talk about today, perhaps that you'll be inspired as she challenges the stigma surrounding mess and helps us realize that organization isn't about perfection. It's just about living our best lives with a blend of humor, empathy, and practical strategies. Meggie empowers us to navigate the clutter that can weigh us down emotionally and literally physically. She has been featured in Domino, Real Simple, the Food Network, and Houzz. Outside of her organizing ventures and the publication of her new book, she enjoys running half marathons, sipping morning coffee, and running her alternative 90s rock music show and spending cherished moments with her family, including her husband, Sal, which she calls a loudmouth Italian. I take offense to that because I'm Italian and I'm a bit...
I picked him, Jim. I love him for it.
And I'm a bit of a loudmouth as well, so I can totally get it. Husband's name is Sal, and two spirited daughters and two delightful dogs. So if she's a dog owner, I know that I love her already. So get ready for our conversation. It's going to be filled with wisdom, hopefully a few laughs as we go through this, actionable steps on how to shift our mindset about clutter so we can focus on what truly matters, living joyfully and intentionally. So let's dive right in. Meggie, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you so much, Jim. First of all, what a thoughtful, moving introduction. I'm so appreciative. I think you got me covered. You covered all the bases. That's so sweet.
I think you're kind of a thoughtful and moving person yourself, so how appropriate. And first of all, let's talk about your background, about where you're at. I think it might kind of explain who you are. It's kind of like an identification piece that's behind you. Maybe intentionally you have that background. I think you mentioned it's for sound, but it's perfectly beautiful. And so show us, just kind of turn your camera a little bit.
Yeah, I'll show it off just a little bit. It's actually a newer design space that I've done. We moved about a year ago, and it gave me, we have a heart for vintage homes. Which reminds you, vintage in Houston is the 1960s and 70s, so, at least as far as homes go. Yeah. So we found ourselves another one. We did a full renovation on the first one we had that we bought 10 years ago, and then we stumbled across this one in our same neighborhood, just a little bit more space for our kids to finally have their own rooms in. And yeah, so it gave me the opportunity to design my dream closet, which is what you see here. I'm very proud of it. I haven't shown it off to too many, so you are getting a sneak peek.
Whoa.
You won't, you won't find it on my Instagram just yet, because I sort of was holding my cards close until it was totally done. which it is now. And again, I am super proud of it. I'm so grateful for the chance to, again, it was one of the reasons we bought a vintage home, is just so I could put my own stamp on it, instead of something new that was already finished and much more expensive to begin with. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm super, it's very colorful, just like me, has its,
Oh, it's
has all
beautiful.
this. Thank you. So yeah, colorful, and I, like you'll see, I'm definitely a fashion lover, but within reason. What I can store in here is all that I have.
Yeah. So are on the shelf behind you, are those all shoes on that shelf?
They are, and I
Oh
am
my
a
God, Maggie, you got a problem. You need you need
now. Part of my book is letting go of some of that shame and guilt that we do feel. I think it's okay to be a collector in some ways. Now, somewhere I'll tell you, I am so not a collector. I am a horrid cook. You will not find me in the kitchen cooking anything. Anytime I do, nobody likes it. So my husband Sal is the cook in our family.
okay.
I We don't have a lot of kitchen gadgets. Good pots and pans and good knives, and that's it. So while I talk about that shame and guilt in our book, I think it's okay to be a lover of things in some areas of our life, as long, here's the clue, Jim, as long as it's not overwhelming.
Okay.
And that's what I keep in check. I have a one of the oldest rules in the organizing world is one in, one out. And so if I decide I want to buy a new pair of shoes, which is not very often these days, but if I do, I have to retire an older pair of shoes or something I'm not wearing very much, which I have to say is a little too easy now, because my older daughter is actually my exact shoe size. And so
Okay.
she is happy for me to replace anything, because
Huh.
she will take
Yeah, so we may see her walk behind you and go to your shelf to grab some
wouldn't
shoes.
surprise me.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me. But in all fairness, I've had the same shoe size since I was in sixth grade.
Yeah.
So for that matter, it's been easy to have more over the years,
Yeah.
because I haven't changed much in my shoe size, at least.
Well, so let's talk about your business, and we have lots to talk about, and I usually try to put together, Meggie, an order, for things, but I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants today a little bit. But I want to know about your business, because you're in Houston, and I know there are three things that I picked up from your website. You offer, and you correct me if I'm wrong on this, you offer home services, business services, and virtual services. And
Mm-hmm.
so what I wanted to touch on at this point are the virtual services, because while you're in Houston, not too far away from Dallas, I think 4 hours, something like that, it's probably a little bit of a stretch maybe for you to get here all the time. So talk about how your business operates, Meggie, and maybe touch on those three things: the home services, the business side, and the virtual. And I think I want, and I'm hoping that my listeners get the most value today out of maybe what you can provide to them virtually.
Yeah.
Because you can't be everywhere. And I know, with the publication of your book, that you're going to be busier than ever. And you're going to be talking,
Yes.
doing a lot of interviews, talking to a lot of people, and probably doing a lot of talks. You're going to become a very more popular person than you are now. So could you talk about those things with an emphasis, again, home services, business services, and an emphasis on virtual services?
Yeah, I've been so honored to work in Houston and the surrounding areas for the last 10 years. I'm a NAPO, which is the National Association of Professional Organizers, certified organizer. And that has been, I'll just add that in as a network. If someone does want to find someone who's in the Dallas Fort Worth area, that's a great place to start, which is napo.net. Just a plug. They're not paying me for it, but it is a way to find a professional organizer if you do need someone in person. I will add that, different or finding an organizer is like kind of finding a therapist, and it's almost like dating. You want
Okay.
to find someone that you have a good connection with, that the energy level fits. So I always say that don't be afraid to call one or two people and see what's a good fit. But a professional organizer, they'll work in a lot of different ways to help you complete those projects that have been lingering for however long, right? And so I will say virtual organizing came into play in 2020. I think we all know what went down with the
Sure.
pandemic and the world got really quiet. And I did want to find a way. Obviously, working in home in person wasn't really an option for a while. I had a lot of people on my team on unemployment. And so I did start to think outside the box of how can I support people in this time? I think one of the things I was wondering, or I was curious about if this would happen in 2020, was whether or not people would just figure out how to get organized on their own and never need to hire an organizer again. Now, over the years, that has proved not to be true because we realize it's not just time that is the problem with getting organized, right? Sometimes it's skill or energy, motivation, accountability, right? These are some of the challenges that we've realized. And that is really where virtual organizing, at least for me, I'd started to offer it more. I will say it's not for everyone because it
Okay.
does depend how much of a do-it-yourself person you are.
Hmm.
And so sometimes virtual organizing serves as just an accountability, right? Someone you're checking in with on a very regular basis in order to get through a project because perhaps it's I just need someone holding holding my feet to the fire a little bit to
Hmm.
follow through with the things that I say that I want to get done. And so that's where virtual organizing can be helpful. And even just someone to ask questions to, which is what a professional organizer is trained in, right? We're trained to be able to help you troubleshoot why is this space so unorganized? Why am I struggling here? And have that kind of professional expertise to be able to figure out where are those hurdles because it can be so hard even on my own in my own spaces. I
Uh-huh.
have reached out to my organizer friends and even hired some of my organizer friends here in Houston to help me, particularly in a playroom. But that's a
That's
for
another.
another podcast.
Yeah.
But that space can totally get my head, wired. But again, it's helping you stay focused is part of where virtual organizing can be super helpful. That is also, Jim, where I felt like a book was something. Now, turns out I've been blogging for years, and I really do like blogging. Once I found my voice, I'm sure you can tell that my writing is a lot like my speaking. I just say it like I'm having a conversation.
Hmm.
And I realized that actually is kind of a missing niche, maybe a little bit in the organizing book world. I think we see a lot of books that are beautiful photos. I mean, like goals, right? Things like, oh, we would love to. And again, I say that with a grain of salt, right? My closet is something I'm sure people are like, I wish my closet looked like that. Yes, but not all rooms in my house look like this. You should see my garage.
Yeah.
However, I wanted to have these healing conversations about clutter with more than just the people who could afford to hire me or that were close to me. And so that's sort of where this book sort of manifested in 2020. And then I just started putting pen to paper because
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, I had some time and I was at home and I was out of work and I had kids home and writing was a way to escape a little bit and kind of be in my element, if you will, which is definitely talking about organizing. And that's where it kind of all came together. I took me a little bit. I did write it and finished it in 2021. And then it just took me a couple years to figure out a publisher that worked. So yeah, that's also where the book comes into play because even virtual organizing sometimes is maybe out of reach of keeping that schedule. But again, that's where, or at least I hope my book is something that can allow people to hear those conversations about clutter, understand ourselves a little bit better, be kinder to ourselves through it. I think we hold ourselves to such a standard. I've got to get it done, and I've got to get it done now, and I think that's a recipe for disappointment too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I noticed that you have a staff of some beautiful young women that work for you. Yeah, I think you have 4 or 5 women that work for you. Can you talk about your staff and about your company a little bit?
Yeah, I've been really blessed to have so many amazing women on my team. I'll be really honest that I've dialed down because of the book
Okay.
and wanting to give it my full focus. I have realized that giving it my all right now in more of my time. So I've kind of dialed that back to just me.
Okay.
But I'm so excited. Actually, a few of the people on my team have gone on to do their own organizing businesses here in Houston, and I have sent so many clients their way.
Sure.
Being that my capacity to do now, I will say I consult more on the design side of things because that's a little bit easier to do from a distance. But just in the sense of giving my book everything I've got, and giving it the time. But yeah, working as a team is really valuable. So I will say, if someone is looking for a professional organizer, a team is great to make the most of time. So let's say you have a project. Let's just get a pantry, super popular project. I love a good pantry. Sometimes trying to do it on your own can take you, let's say, a whole week of absolutely dedicated daytime, right? So hours a day for a few days. And I mean like full clean out, getting products, getting labels, getting everything done. Well, having a whole week to block off is not always in the cards. And so, and even that, sometimes doing it now, I will say, like from a virtual standpoint, perhaps you're doing it once a week for a month. And again, in the interest of time, hiring a professional organizing team might get you done in a day or a day and a half. And so that's where the value of having a team of people can be a time saver if that's in the budget, right? But again, there's different strokes for different folks. So it just depends on what your needs are, what your time constraints are, and really doing things at the pace that works for you. Because I will say, especially with some of our senior clients, having a team of people come in is very overwhelming. So that may not be a good fit for some. And perhaps just working a little bit slower, but at a one-on-one pace is something that makes more sense.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting observation, because I think that's true. And I would guess, and I'm generalizing, of course, that, most women don't like somebody coming in and taking over their kitchen or their pantry. Right? I mean, it's there.
That can certainly be the case. I would say it depends on the person, right? I've had some of our male clients who are like, don't touch the tools in my garage. Mm-hmm. Which our rule of thumb, and most organizers have this rule of thumb, is we don't touch someone's stuff that we don't have permission from. And let me tell you, I've had a few phone calls about particularly kids wanting help with their senior parents. Yeah. And my answer is always no. Unless I hear from your mom or your dad or whomever it is, I have to hear from them, because it is not, to me, it's not permission to touch anyone's things without their direct permission to touch my stuff. And the same goes for spouses, right? If I'm just working, let's say with a wife, and she's like, I need you to reorganize all my husband's stuff. And I'm like, can we make sure he's okay with that? Just because, again, you're right. It is such an intimate and personal thing. And it never, let's just say, if we thought we were doing someone a favor, it never really worked out the way we hoped it would. So permission is always key. And so I would say, if you do want to get organized, that's amazing. Focus on your space and your stuff first, and then you can get to the rest of your family members, whoever they are. Maybe they'll be jealous of your space and want it done too.
Yeah. And, well, I know one of the issues with most seniors is they've accumulated a lot of stuff, right? Yeah. And my wife and I were the same. When we moved, I mentioned to you, we had lived in Iowa until I was 43. So we spent, the first 20 years of our life being married, accumulating stuff. We had a big Victorian home with a third floor that, had a floor, and we put all of our stuff up there. Whenever we didn't have room or we accumulated too much stuff, we would carry it up those rickety steps and we would put it upstairs. But when we went to move, we had 20 years of stuff. I mean, you couldn't even walk on the floor upstairs because there were boxes. And so I know how seniors in particular can accumulate so much stuff. And we all do that. And many seniors, I think, and help me with this, think that their kids are going to want their stuff. Okay. You see, and being a realtor, I've been in a lot of homes and a lot of seniors. And one of the things I have to do is to ask them to declutter before we get started in marketing their home, because we want to be able to walk through the rooms. We want to be able to see the product, their home, and they need to, get rid of their stuff. And many say that, well, I'm keeping it because I think my kids will want it. How do you approach that, Meggie? Because am I right in saying that most kids don't want your stuff. Is that a generalization, or do you find that to be true?
I do find it to be true. So I'll say I'll answer it in the order that I can remember it. So you were at the beginning, I think, talking about how we accumulate over the course of our lives a lot more stuff, and that is 100% true. I love that you brought up your move, because I also just moved a year ago after accumulating. I didn't have kids the time I moved before that, right? Then suddenly 10 years later, I moved after having two kids, and holy Toledo. I'm still recovering. I'm still unpacking. That's why my garage is not.
Yeah.
So I will say, maybe when you're younger, particularly now, people move around a little bit more and then you settle down. But when you're moving from place to place, it's such an easier way to declutter at that time, because you have to touch all your stuff anyway. So you go through it naturally. And so that moving is a great way, or I should say a forced way to declutter, right? And so as we get older, we stay put more, right? Or stay put longer. And so I would say for any seniors who are feeling guilt or shame about having a lot of stuff, of course you have. You've been in your own place for so long. You haven't been forced to see the depths of your cabinets or what's deep in the closets, right? Or what's up in the guest room, because you haven't really needed to move it for a while.
Sure.
So I would try to shed some of that. And I talk about this in my book. It is so much easier these days to acquire. We no longer have to get in our car and drive to the store to go get that XYZ thing that we want or need, right? We can have it delivered to our door sometimes within hours. So acquiring is insanely easy right now. And that is one of the reasons why I think clutter has been an issue, right? And things are made less expensive. So acquiring more things is also more accessible for more people. And so I think that is another reason why clutter happens, right? And so that I will say in this world, it is forced upon us in a lot of ways, right? There's an ad, no matter what TV show you're watching or streaming, no matter what you're listening to, watching, social media, everywhere is pushing you to buy something else, right?
Sure.
Or buy something new and better, or buy something different. And so I will say the world was designed to make you want to buy more things, and therefore it's not just you. There's not something wrong with you for acquiring. It's made so easy these days. So in that regard, don't linger too long in that, because it's not really helpful, and just maybe try to be a better consumer going forward to the best of your ability. And on the other side of that, I know you mentioned with seniors having so many things and wanting perhaps for their kids to take that on next.
Yeah.
Have those conversations now. Ask them now.
Yeah.
And be okay with the answer. I think that sometimes we want to believe that our collection of stamps is the coolest collection of stamps in the whole world. And maybe it is, or baseball cards or coins, or, some sort of clothes. I will say, I did tell one thing my mother and I know. Now, I only have one parent left. So I've walked through that journey as well of losing a parent. My husband, we lost his mother. So we've walked through that too. So I will say from that perspective, we do understand. But like with my mom, she knows her vinyl collection. I called dibs. Dibs on her vinyl collection. Again, I have a heart for those vintage things. I love vinyl records. I'm actually a big band girl. Don't tell too many people, but Frank Sinatra is like one of my favorite singers. But I will say, she knows that I want them. She knows she's not I get first right of refusal. And so we've had that weird kind of awkward, a little bit conversation of what makes sense. And so if you do think that your kid is going to want this, ask them and be okay with the answer. And now that doesn't mean, if they don't want it, you absolutely have to get rid of it. But it does mean trying to figure out what makes sense. And I always go back to, you can store as much as you have room for. I know that kind of rhymes. I don't mean to sound like Dr. Seuss, but it is true. Yeah. And it is in my book, as far as you can store. And like I said, I have this much room for shoes, and that's it. So Meggie is not allowed to have more shoes than what she can store. And that's a physical limitation just for myself so that things don't get overwhelming. But let that be a limitation for yourself. So if the category in question is overwhelming you and keeping you from, I don't know, enjoying that space. Let's say it's taking up an entire guest room and you can't have guests anymore because it's full of whatever the category is, right?
Yeah.
Well, then I would just, it's maybe time to start analyzing if that's really something that's worth keeping. Because do you want to keep the stuff that no one wants that they've said? Or do you want to use the guest room so that they'll come visit you more or have somewhere to stay? And so again, that's going to be different for every person and every category. But again, I know it can be awkward to ask people that, but I would say now is the time. Don't wait. And as someone personally, I'm going to be totally honest with you, as someone who has had to deal with my own parent, my father, who my parents weren't together, but having to deal with his stuff and then also having to deal with my mother-in-law's stuff, please understand it can be so overwhelming
Sure.
for your kids to deal with. And again, sometimes you don't know, and that's not, but remember that someone will have to deal with it and someone will have to make a lot of those decisions. So if you can help us make those decisions in whatever way works for you, it's an act of love, really,
Sure.
to be able to try to do that.
And I think that's obviously where you come in to be able to help people. You can't make the decisions for them, Meggie, but you can help them and talk them through making those decisions. And you're spot on with a point that you made, and I think it's a great point. Don't be offended and or hurt if your child doesn't want the stuff that you have. And I'll give you an example in my case. One of my prized possessions was a grand piano that I purchased in 1994, and it was part of me. It was actually part of who I am. And when it came to move from Oregon to Texas in 2002, I asked my kids, well, I've got this grand piano, and you guys know, and I think Nikki, my daughter, I think Nikki is the one that deserves it, and I want her to have it because she's a musician and she's played. And she said, I don't want it. I said, well, what do you mean you don't want it? It's part of me. It's kind of who I am. How could you not want it? And she said, Dad, I just don't want it. And it was hard. It was really hard for me to accept that. But, what I did, and maybe with some of those prized possessions, and I'm not in your business, don't know your business and how to talk people down, so to speak, but I made sure that I gave myself enough time to sell that piano to somebody that I handpicked, somebody that I knew would love it, cherish it, and care for it in the way that I did. And so maybe with some of those possessions, while they might not be, a 6-foot grand piano, I think finding somebody who you want to have it and maybe deserves to have it and who you think should have it, and interviewing people and making sure they get it.
I love that you took time for that. That's such a huge factor in being able to let something go, is having that avenue that feels right for you. And of course you wanted it to be your daughter, but you took the time to try to find the avenue that felt right. And that's such a huge part of being able to let go of anything. Maybe it's a grand piano, which is amazing. Do you play, Jim? I have to ask.
Yeah, I do.
So I'm a pianist as well. I don't have room for a grand piano, otherwise, but I have just an upright Yamaha that I still fiddle on. But yeah, and remember too, those things are always, the memory lives in you, not in the piano, and you're allowed to take that with you. I hope you took a picture of it at the very least.
Oh, of course, I've got pictures. And I know the woman who has it. And part of the transaction was she would report to me every year on the piano and let me know where it's at, that it's being cared for. I'm kind of over the top, okay?
That's okay.
And
We're
she,
all a little extra in our own ways.
yeah, so, when she got it, she sent me pictures of the room that she put it in. And it's a perfectly beautiful room, much nicer than the room I had the piano in. And she stays up to date with me and just will send me a text every once in a while that I thought of you today. I played the piano and I thought of you and how much I'm appreciative that I have it. So I don't think it matters if it's a piano or if it's baseball cards, like you mentioned, or if it's little, I don't know, statuettes or something, I don't know, that people collect. People collect stuff, and some of
Yeah.
it's extraordinarily weird to me, but it's their stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so in your book, you talk about organization is freedom, not perfection. And I want people to remember that. Tell us what you mean by that in your book.
Yeah, so I think perfectionism, or at least having perfect spaces, I think became more centered when social media started to grow, right? We see all the Pinterest, we see the Instagram posts of these completely curated, perfectly staged places.
Yeah.
And somehow that got mixed up with what the goal was in being organized.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to sort of tear that up a little bit and just say that's not actually the standard. Also, by the way, all those things you see are staged, and they're meant to look as perfect as and as what I would say unlived in as
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
Because that's what translates. And so wanting to give people a sort of just a little bit of a tough love moment of saying being organized has nothing to do with what it looks like. Do we love a pretty space? Of course we do.
Hmm.
However, being organized is about finding what you need when you need it.
Convenience.
That's it. Yes, it's can you find your keys when it's time to leave the house? Cool. That's organized. Can you put your outfit together when you want to get dressed up for the wedding you're going to? Great. That's also organized. It has nothing to do with the aesthetics of it or how it looks. It's how it feels. And I kind of come back to that feeling of if that space is overwhelming, it's probably not feeling very organized. But if that space, as I've had several clients go, well, this space isn't really bothering me. And then my response is, great, let's move on because I don't want to mess with something that's not bothering you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
again, that may not look like a Pinterest photo or an Instagram photo, and that's okay. And that again, wanting to I kind of joke in my book that I just want you to have a passing grade. We're not going for Dean's List of organized spaces. We just want to pass and again get back to like the funner side of life, which is probably not managing your space.
So
It's
you're,
being with your friends and family or whatever.
so you don't go when someone calls you and needs your help. You're not necessarily, unless it's their goal, their mission. You're not going there to put their rooms in House Beautiful magazine or whatever. You're there.
No.
Of course, you're serving your clients to what they're looking for, and that may be something that they're looking for. But your primary goal is organization, is freedom, and not perfection, right?
Yeah, I just
Makes sense.
our goal, and this was sort of our motto with clients was, what can we do to make your life easier? That's
Yeah.
it. What can we do to make your life easier? And
Mhm.
usually, and again, obviously in the realm, I can't pick up your kids from school, but in the realm of what can we do in your home that will make your life flow more easily, right? And so again, that didn't have anything to do with now that did that mean that some wanted to pay a little extra to do the really fancy labels or have it completely curated with all brand new products? Yeah, sometimes that was the case, but
Mhm.
not I would even say I don't even think it was half the time that was the case. Most of the time, and the majority of projects, and knowing again being in the industry for over 10 years, this is the case with a lot of clients. It's just about less mess and less stress,
Mm.
right? That's really all it is. And again, that doesn't have anything to do with making it look like it should be in Architectural Digest. And I always joke like my house is probably I pay more attention to detail in my house for obvious reasons. Like it's
Yeah.
my house and, I want it to look it's pristine, but I'm also here to take the time to do that as well. But then I also joke that my toughest client has been my husband. So on the other side of the coin, his side of the closet but that's marriage, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what, baby, you're good. You just make sure you stay over here in your corner and then I'll be over here.
Oh God, you need to talk to my wife for me. You need to talk to my wife because she doesn't honor my,
Happily.
yeah, she doesn't honor my side of the closet. And she says, my God, why don't you get rid of some of those clothes? And it's because,
No.
well, right now I'm not as fat as I used to be, but I'm probably going to go in that direction at some point. So who knows? I got to keep those clothes just in case I gain, the 150 pounds that I lost. But, I got, it's all okay. But her side, Meggie, it's perfect. Everything is
Yeah.
perfect. So tell me, when somebody calls you, what is the order of business? Do people call you and right out of the gate say, I want to hire you, I need help? Or is it, listen, I don't know what a professional organizer is. Can you explain what you do and how you do it? And what are the steps if someone wants to hire you? What do they do?
Yeah, so I would say it's funny because the conversation's probably shifted more over the last 10 years. 8 years ago, people were asking, you're a professional organizer, what does that mean? But
Hmm.
I will say, with the growth of the industry itself, we have TV shows like The Home Edit and Marie Kondo became popular after I was already an organizer. Those kind of brought the industry more to a forefront and became more understood. So I had a lot. So 8, 9, 10 years ago, I was absolutely explaining to people what it is I do. Nowadays, I do feel like people understand what a professional organizer does. And I wouldn't say that they're automatically in. Like I said, you want to make sure you find someone that fits your energy level, that makes sense to work with.
Yeah,
Because it's a lot like finding a therapist, being that it's such an intimate job, right? You're having someone in your home, touching and
your
being
stuff.
in your stuff. You
Yeah.
want someone that you're comfortable with. So it always starts with, a phone call or a video call, whichever makes sense, just to get an introduction and see. I always, too, and I think a good organizer will do the same, want to make sure that the goals are in line with what makes sense. I've had some interesting requests on what the goal is. And so just making sure that it's in line with what the expectations are, right? Like what are we able to achieve and what is it you're really looking for? And again, is that something that I think I can do? And obviously timeline. It is funny how some people will call and be like, can you come tomorrow? And the answer is never yes.
Yeah.
Um, so again, just making sure that those goals are in line with what we can do. And from there, it depends on the organizer. Usually doing a planning session up front, which again is looking over the spaces in person and making sure, like, okay, well, what do we see that needs to change in this space? What is already working in this space? And I do try to get clients, and I would encourage anyone who did narrow down with the top two spaces max to start in. I
Okay.
feel like people are like, well, I want my whole house organized. And I'm like, I love that for you. I love that goal. But I would say that's like starting a different race in every room at the same time. And I think there's a lot of decisions that have to be made in an organizing project. So if you can narrow down, I would say one or two spaces max, it allows you to make those decisions without being overwhelmed. Yeah, so narrowing down, meeting in the space, seeing what needs to change. Some people want to do a complete overhaul and like tear everything up and start over with the design, which I will say is one of my favorite kinds of projects.
Sure, I can imagine.
I have a construction background too. Before I was an organizer, I was in the construction world, and so I've a lot of experience with contractors and stuff like that. But I will say those are the ones I love, where we can start all over and could totally dream from nothing what could be. But some people are like, I don't have, either it's not in the budget to do that, or it's not in something that's feasible to have that kind of project going on while living there. And so maybe it's just a few products to help make the space work better for them. So kind of trying to decide those during a planning meeting is the way that I love to do it. And then from there, getting the ball running, whether that's getting a project, in line with contractors or getting a few products ordered and coming back and letting all the magic unfold.
So you basically set an appointment, you meet them, you sit down with them in their home, generally, Meggie?
Yes. Oh,
okay.
Yes,
All right.
that
So
works.
you sit with them in the home and then you address, okay, tell me what it is that you want. What do you want to accomplish? I love that you said that, don't necessarily tackle everything. Maybe start with a room, the most important room. And I would guess, I don't know, would be a closet, but I don't know that. Maybe it's an attic where people have stuff.
Everybody's different.
Yeah, sure.
Everybody's different.
And then you sit back down with them. This is much like listing a home, where you sit down with them, you talk about what they want to accomplish. It's about them. It's never about you, Meggie, right?
Absolutely.
What do you want to accomplish? And here's how I can help you. And then from there, you quote them a price based on the number of hours that you believe it's going to take. Is that how it works?
For the most part. And I will say that planning meeting, I always say, isn't free. I like most organizers will charge for that planning meeting because, again, we're giving you a plan and we're going through some action items. And,
That makes sense.
I don't know about you, but time, there's not a commission on the other end of it, but it is, for the most part, most organizers will do the same where they charge for that planning meeting. But again, it's not a super high price or expensive. And again, we want to give you some actionables from that. We want it to be of value for you as well. But yeah, and from there, and again, people like me who have been doing it for 10 years, we can have a gauge on especially when we see a place in person. Sometimes from photos, we can get a gauge on what the price point is for the project. And give you an estimate. But when you've done, especially in the same city, you have a good idea of, like Houston, I mean, I could take a look at a one-wall pantry, a two-wall pantry, a three-wall pantry, and have a pretty good idea of how much time it's going to take. And like you said, understanding what their goals are, what kind of labeling system they're going to implement, those will play factors into how much time. But once we've already know all those things, we can get pretty close to what it is.
So let's talk about your book for just a second, because today is the day, right? And
It is.
I can't believe you're sitting here talking to me today. So I appreciate you doing that. And I wish I had all kinds of balloons and all kinds of noisemakers. I don't. I didn't prepare well enough.
No, this is perfect. This is perfect. The way I love to celebrate it is this.
So tell me, there's got to be a reason people buy your book. And so I'm guessing there's actionable steps in your book that people can take today to help them get organized. So can you talk about maybe what some of those steps might be, or a particular part in your book where it's really spot on and it can help people? As soon as they open the pages, they can go to a certain chapter, open it up and go, oh my God, that's exactly what I've been looking for. And Meggie's laid it all out for me. What might that be in your book?
Yeah, so the first thing I talk about, and this is why I wanted to write this book, being that it's a little bit different in tone than maybe some of the other organizing books that you see out there, is I first wanted to have a conversation about when is the right season to get organized.
Okay.
And I think that's an important thing to recognize, because there are so often times in our life when, and this is why Give Clutter the Middle Finger actually has a dual meaning. It means sometimes it's not the right season to get organized and you need to give it the middle finger and go do something else. It is not the right time. It's not the right season. Perhaps you're taking care of a sick parent. I've also been there personally. Perhaps you are going back to school or something really exciting, and that is taking up all the free time that you have. Or, maybe work pressures, or your things are going, differently in your career where you've got to take, or you're just taking a break. Maybe you're an empty nester and you're like, you know what? I need to take a moment to breathe, and that's okay too. Perhaps it's a health journey. Perhaps it's a health journey that you're on. Maybe you have a diagnosis that you're dealing with. also not the right season to say, I'm going to get organized now. I think it's the right season to focus on you and your health instead. And organizing, I promise, can wait and it'll be there when it's the right time. So that's one of the big things I talk about in my book is being honest with ourselves about what we have the bandwidth for. And again, of course, I want everyone to read this book, completely organize their lives, and feel completely empowered. That's why it's kind of two parts, right? So perhaps you are in a good season where it is time to give clutter the middle finger and deal with it. And if that's the case, awesome. The second half of my book is as simple as I could lay it out, steps for pretty much every space that you probably have in your home. Most of us have kitchens, most of us have closets, most of us have garages also in there too, which can be a monster.
Yeah.
But I try to make it, I try to simplify it in a way that it do it yourself for, even if it's just you and maybe your kid or you and a friend. Maybe you even trade doing spaces. Like you have a friend come over and help you with your pantry, and then you go over and help them with theirs. However it makes sense for you. But whatever you need, I try to simplify the actionable steps. So once we've decided it is the right season, I always say too, getting organized is kind of like getting in shape, right? You can't just decide, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to totally overhaul my diet. I'm going to start working out 6 days a week starting tomorrow. Man, you are setting yourself up for failure if the bar is here and you're like, I'm going to lose 20 pounds by the end of the month. I don't know very many people who would accomplish all of those things all at one time. And so I always say getting organized is a lot like that too. It is a muscle, if you will, that we kind of have to build up a little bit. So starting smaller, maybe perhaps just doing a drawer is all you have the capacity for right now. One single drawer. Now, I know people like the word junk drawer. I try to call it a tool drawer. We're trying to give that drawer a better name
Yeah.
because I feel like if we call it junk, that's exactly what will end up in there.
Yeah.
Start with that. Everyone's got one. Everyone's got a drawer that's got those pens and scissors and keys we don't know. Just start there. Hopefully, that's a project that takes 30 minutes to an hour tops if you're going real slow. And start small and work your way up. I say this in my book. Please, please, please don't start with your clothes closet or personally, right? Or I say nostalgia and keepsakes are also not the greatest place to start because those are two of the spaces that are sometimes the most emotionally charged. And so I always say build up to that. Now there might be a special few unicorns who can start in those spaces, and hats off to you. That's amazing. But it's definitely not the space to start for most people. So start small, start with more of the simple spaces. Sometimes pantries are easier for people to do on their own first because pantries, it's pretty easy to make a decision between are these chips expired or are these chips still good, right? There's not a lot of emotional charge to that decision. And so those can be a little bit easier. And again, work our way into the more heavy lifting spaces that take a little bit more time. And again, let's be honest, some of these can be emotionally taxing or draining. And so give yourself grace when those spaces do come up and don't be in any hurry. And I say this too, and because of your audience being seniors, going through parent stuff or loved ones that we've lost, whomever it is, it's a dear aunt or maybe even a child. I have worked with clients who have been through that directly. I want to say this, Jim, if I leave nothing else, there is absolutely no time expectation for that. This is 100% at your pace as you can, and please let go of any standard that you think you need to hold for when and how fast to go through it. Because I have been there where it is an impossible feat. And I would say give yourself the grace to do it in the time that you can. Now, sometimes you might be hurried because a house needs to go on the market.
Yeah.
Those things happen. Do what you can, do it at the pace you can. There's no rules. You have to do what's right for you in your life. And so if I leave nothing else, I hope that your audience will give themselves grace when dealing with that, because again, I've dealt with it personally, losing my father. We've lost my husband's mother very traumatically and very suddenly. And so I know how draining those spaces can be and going through those loved ones' things. And so I hope people will if they take nothing else from this, please give yourself grace through those.
Yeah, yeah. Great suggestion. So as we wind things down, I want to make sure people are able to get a hold of you and find you. You seem to be in a lot of places, so I don't think it's necessarily hard. Instagram is one place where you have a huge presence. That's what's behind me. All the stuff you see are all the short videos that you have. They're quite fun and interesting to watch. Really kind of lets all of us into your life a little bit. Your book is, let's see if I can get my finger right. There it is. Your book is right there, and which comes out today, and people can get at their favorite bookstore or get it tomorrow from Amazon. Just order it. And it's a hardback book, if I'm correct. So it's a book to keep. It's not a junker. It's a serious book, and that you can even pass on, I would guess, to people that you love. But Meggie Mangione is on Instagram. She has, of course, a website. I think it's MeggieMangione.com. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That website has all the links. So if you like to shop at Target or Walmart or Books A Million or bookshop.org or Amazon, all the links wherever you love to shop, you can get it there, and it'll come today, or it'll get shipped today, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just spell it, because Meggie's name is not Maggie, it's Meggie. It's Meggie, and it's Mangione, and I'll spell it. It's ManGione.com, Meggie Mangione. And so that's how you can find her on the net. And listen, today, there's so many things I wanted to talk about, but we're up against the wall. So I got
an hour went quick, didn't it, Jim?
It did. You're quite fun and enjoyable to be around. And so it's time that I start rearranging stuff. I got to get busy, Meggie. I got stuff to do. So go out and get the book today. If you have any questions, reach out to me, please. I'll try to connect you with Meggie in the Houston area with her business, and I know she'll be happy to help you. Her book is named Give Clutter the Middle Finger, and you'll be able to find it everywhere. I'm sure it's going to be a big hit, Meggie, and it's going to land you with a lot of new opportunities that you never imagined. So, Meggie, thank you so much for being with me today. Say hello to your big mouth husband, because I'm one too. I need to get together with Sal and meet him at some point, and we can.
Jim, I will say personally, and just in case, I know all the Godfather references. I know all the Goodfellas references. I have been well educated on all the things. So Italian life is here to stay.
It kind of takes over. I know that. But again, thank you so much for joining me on Senior to Seniors. And for those listening and watching on YouTube, please, if you would, subscribe to my site, like my page, let others know about this, and especially tell them about Meggie. She had so much great information to share, and make sure you purchase her book. Meggie, thanks, and we'll talk again, huh?
Thanks, Jim. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye.